Assalamualaikum, everyone. Welcome to our session on mental health awareness through the NAMCC. And mashallah, we have wonderful providers and joining in every month and giving us a lot of insight about mental health as we have times changing and things coming up and learning more about how to take care of ourselves and our families and better to be better Muslims, inshallah. So we begin, Bismillahi wa salatu wa salamu alayka ya Rasulullah. And رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We have Sister Mona here today, and mashallah, Sister Mona has been with us for a few sessions before, and she is a trained therapist, and she has worked with individuals as well as groups and couples, and even with kids, you do have some experience with doing group therapies. So she has gained a lot of experience, especially helping couples in their life cycle transitions and developing a deeper bond with each other. And she provides support to individuals with depression, anxiety, identity, attachment, as well as with confidence issues. So mashallah, she has experience in all these. And today, Sister Mona is going to talk to us about Back to School 101, which as schools have started in this week and some before that, kids and parents both have a juggling act of finding the right balance where everyone is happy, confident, and has a good learning experience. So inshallah, we'll hear from Sister Mona and about how to make this transition easy and a good experience for ourselves and our children, getting them back to school and enjoy learning, inshallah. So the platform is yours, Sister Mona.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm happy to be back and be presenting on this topic. I want you guys to have a little bit of personal background. I am married. I've been married for a couple of decades now. I have 3 beautiful children. My oldest one, this is relevant, is a senior in high school this year. I have another one who's a freshman in high school this year. And then I have a sweet little 3rd grader that is going to be in 3rd grade this year. And I have all 3 girls. And they're all in different stages of their life and in different stages of school. And I wanted to present today from the point of view of a parent, a worried parent for their child, because a lot of us, we go through, we watch our children grow. We don't know where to give support and how to give support, how much support is too much support, when should we pull back, what discipline should look like, what routines should look like. These are all questions we constantly juggle, as well as our own routines. We work, we have a home to manage, we have other relationships that we are in and managing at the same time. So as adults, there's a lot that we kind of are confronted with and have to think about. And it becomes a juggling act, right? What do we prioritize? What do we not prioritize? Who we give more time to, what we give less time to. So the way I've kind of set up today's talk is in 2 parts. From the point of view of a parent, and I did it this way because I wish that somebody had done it like this for me when I was a young mom with young children. I don't think anybody ever told me what I should be expecting child developmentally, age appropriately for my children as they went through school. So I'm going to share that little bit with you guys in the first part of the talk. And then in the second part of our talk, I'm going to help you guys recognize what causes stress for our children, what that looks like behaviorally, what it sounds like verbally, and what we can do, and just some kind of tips at the end. I'm going to talk for maybe about 45 to 50-ish or so minutes. Sometimes I do get carried away because it's such a passionate topic for me. I am going to mind the time so we can make sure that I leave some room for questions at the end. So let's get started. We're going to start with when our kids first start going to school, which is usually around the age of 5, right? And if my PowerPoint would work. There we go. So we're talking about a young child, 5 to 6 year old. They're in kindergarten or first grade. And what are some of the milestones developmentally that our child is going through, right? And I'm just going to go through this just real quick. So what can they do, right? Physically, they start to lose their baby teeth. They start to help around the house with chores, right? Put your clothes away, put the dishes away, pick up after yourself, pack up your backpack. These are all things that your child should be able to do. They can recognize and recite the alphabet. If your kid is more advanced than that, perfect, right? But at the very least, they can recognize and recite the alphabet. They can write their first name and sometimes their last name. They should know their address and their parents' phone number, right? They're able to use scissors, motor skills, right? They can use a small pair of scissors. They can jump rope, walk backwards. They start to learn how to tie their shoes. A lot of kids don't become proficient in this motor skill until a little bit later, but they start to at least learn. They recognize some shapes and they can draw a person conceptually with at least 6 body parts or more: head, torso, legs, arms. Okay. Now, what can they say? So a 5 to 6 year old's vocabulary is anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 words. They should be constructing sentences that are 6 to 8 words long, conceive it and then say it, and be able to communicate. They know 4 or more of their colors, right? They can name some of the coins and money that we exchange. And they can understand instructions in multiple phrases. So please shut the door and turn the lights off. They can understand commands. Sometimes even more. Please shut the door, turn the lights off, and go lay down. Okay, so they can follow instructions that you have given in multiple layers. And they talk a lot. There's a lot of talking going on at this age and a lot of needing reciprocation in conversation. Okay. What can our 5 and 6 year old understand? Cognitively, what can they understand? They understand time. They understand day and night. They're curious about real facts, right? Even though they live in a fantasy world and an imaginative world, they understand real facts about the world. And this is the age when they start comparing their parents' rules to their friends' parents' rules. Well, my friend can stay up past 8:30. How come I have to? This is something that you will hear often. Well, my friend's mom lets her eat chocolate cupcake. How come I can't have a chocolate cupcake? Right? So they start comparing the rules and the disparity in the rules between themselves and then their friends. Okay. How much should they sleep? Sleep is very important for this age group because the brain is still on overdrive growth, right? So 10 to 12 hours of sleep is imperative for this age group. Usually around this age group, we've cut out nap time. So the child is waking up early and going to bed early. If we don't put this child to bed early and they don't get the 10, 12 hours of sleep that they need, it causes irritability, lack of focus, lack of appetite, and these other residual issues that have to do with cognitive ability. So sleep is super, super important. Okay. Social interaction wise, what does this look like? Well, this child is a little bit older, right? And they're usually more cooperative and they can take responsibility. They're eager and they're happy and they want to make their adults happy. So the adults around them, they want to please those adults, whether it be a teacher, a parent, grandparent, older siblings, etc. They have good manners. They should be able to dress themselves completely from head to toe. I'm not saying they have to do it well, but they should be able to do it. They get along well with parents. They enjoy doing cooperative activities, cooking, playing sports with other kids, playing on the playground, and initiating interaction. And once they start going to school, Parents might start to notice that they've become more attached to the parent. So when they come home, they follow the parent around, sometimes to the bathroom, and wait outside the door until the parent gets out, right? So lots of attachment towards the parent going on once they start school, right? What about you? What can you do? Your interaction with them, right? I put on the slide, talk and spend time. That's so vague, and I totally understand that. But here's what we do, right? We have to make sure that our 5-6-year-old understands that we have an interest in having a conversation with them. So we talk to them about their daily activities once they come home. You talk to them about books that they're reading or books that they'd like to read. You talk to them about TV shows that they're watching, if they're allowed technology, or videos that they've seen. I mean, this could be any topic, right? You have to start this kind of doorway of communication at this early an age that no topic is off limits for us to discuss. There is not going to be any consequence for conversations that we have together, right? And here, that is what you're trying to communicate with them when I say talk and spend time. I am guilty of this, so that's why I said spend time. I work outside of the home, and once I walk into the house, I am not on my phone. I have put it away. Here's why: because as soon as I walk through the door, all 3 of my children and both of our cats, right, are in the entryway greeting me, "Mommy, you're home," etc., etc. And I want to make sure that I give them that communication that you are my focus now, right? If I am on the phone, as I pull into my driveway, you guys, I do not get out of the car until I hang it up, okay? Because they need to know that when we are in presence of them, they are the focus of our attention, okay? How can we help them, right? This child really thrives on positive reinforcement, really thrives on compliments on good behavior and achievements. I am not saying throw your child a party every time they have a small accomplishment, but recognizing a small accomplishment gives them the confidence to then take a risk and take part and engage with those bigger activities so that they can achieve the bigger successes, right? Encourage your child to talk about their feelings. A lot of times in this age group, the child is not aware of many feelings. They talk mostly about being mad, being sad, being happy, or being joyful. And those are only really the 4 emotions that they can process and recognize. So as you have conversations with your child, allow them to have more and more vocabulary, right, around their feelings. So I ask my daughter sometimes, describe what happened to me. And she'll say, well, my friend took my pencil and I didn't give her permission and I got so mad. And I say, oh, sounds like you were frustrated. Yes, Mama, I was frustrated, right? So you're not only helping them recognize the feeling that they're feeling, but you're helping them label the feeling that they're feeling. I want you guys to read with your child. I don't care what language it's in. I know there's some of us who we speak multiple languages, right? We speak English, we speak Spanish, Arabic, Urdu. We have multiple plethora of languages in our community that we speak. It doesn't matter. Read to them in whatever language, right? Sing songs with them in whatever language. It's okay for kids to know that our grown-ups can have fun with us and be silly with us just like we can, right? Encourage your child to ask questions. This is the age where they want to know and are curious about every single thing in the world. And you're gonna sometimes be like, why did I open that door to them asking questions? Because now they won't stop. It's okay, right? Be patient. They're just curious about and trying to understand the world that they live in. Allow them to have and show interest in their own new experiences, right? A lot of times we socialize our boys a certain way and we socialize our girls a certain way. Do not restrict or attempt not to restrict the behaviors in which they want to engage with that are healthy, right? So if your little girl wants to go outside and roll around in the mud, and allow her to do that. It's okay. She can come back inside and take a shower. If your young boy wants to explore his sister's dollhouse, that's okay. Allow him to do so. No harm will come of this, okay? Encourage physical activity. These little guys are full of energy, right? And the more we allow them to be physical, the more growth and more clarity they will gain for their little bodies, okay? Of course, socializing your children is very important. So arrange times for your child to play with other children, whether that be with friends at school, friends from the mosque, friends in the neighborhood. And it could be of varying ages as long as it's healthy age gap, right? So we don't necessarily want a 5-year-old playing with a 13-year-old unsupervised, right? That there is no, well, not that there's nothing that can be learned from that, but you want to be able to socialize them with people who are at the same emotional and social level as they are, okay? Give your child a chance to make their own choices. This is the age where they're going to start to assert themselves and show a little bit of independence, right? So allow them to pick out their own outfit for the next school day. Allow them, between giving them options. I do this for my kids. I say, what do you guys want for lunch tomorrow? I can make sandwiches, I can make pasta, and I can make wraps, and allow them to choose what they would like, right? I can give you watermelon, I can give you oranges, or I can give you strawberries. Allow them to choose, make their own choices. The more we allow our child to make healthy choices for themselves, the more confidence they'll gain in making healthy choices for themselves, okay? Timeout is still acceptable for this age group as an appropriate form of, I don't want to say punishment, but consequence, right? But please know that we warn before we punish, right? So when there is a misbehavior, please don't do that. Please stop. A couple of warnings. And then the third warning should be, if you do not stop this behavior, you will go in timeout. All right. And then you put them in timeout for their age appropriateness. So it's a minute for how old the child is. And then at the end, there's repair, right? You were in timeout. What did you learn? I put you in timeout because of this reason. Have you learned your lesson? I love you, hugs, kisses, and so on. Encourage your kids to express their anger in an appropriate manner. We don't want at this point in time for our child to dismiss that they're feeling angry, right? We have to encourage them to know it's okay to feel angry, and then talk it out with them and help them cope in a healthy way. Breathing exercises, taking a break, right? And leaving the room and going somewhere to be alone so you can process. Remember, you guys, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but the part of our brain that is activated when we are angry is what's called the amygdala. And for the amygdala to regulate itself or come back down to normal takes about 15 minutes or so, right? So allow them that time before you ask them an onslaught of questions of what happened, why were you angry, shut up and sit down. We don't want to say these things to our child. We want to make sure they know it's okay to be angry and to process that anger, right? Screen time should be limited to a couple of hours a day, no more than a couple of hours a day. And screens should be turned off at least an hour, if not more, before bedtime, so the blue light doesn't impact. I'm not sure if there's any questions yet or not. I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to move on to our next slide. The next age group we're looking at is an older child, 7 to 9 years old. This is usually children in 1st to 4th grade, right? And we're going to talk through the same kind of topics. This is the time when body image kind of becomes important. to both boys and girls, right? We're starting to grow either taller and in whatever way. And we're trying to recognize how the world views us, right? What color is my hair? What color are my eyes? You start to notice these identifiers in yourself. Some girls, they start to worry about being too big, especially those who are developing early. And we'll talk about puberty in just a second on the next slide, right? And some boys are very sensitive in this age group about being too short, because we put so much emphasis on how boys should be tall, right? It's okay to encourage your child to know that as long as you're healthy and you have healthy habits, that's all that matters, okay? In this age group, what can our kids do? They enjoy activities and they stay busy. They like to do more abstract things like paint and draw and write. So more cognitive stuff is going on than physical stuff is going on. They can learn to ride their bikes at this age. They understand math concepts of adding and subtracting. They can completely dress themselves and groom themselves, right? So they can give themselves their own showers around this age and get dressed, brush their hair, brush their teeth without supervision. And they can use complex tools like screwdrivers and hammers that require a little bit more motor skill, okay? What do they understand? They understand a lot from your 5 to 6 year old to your 7 to 9 year old. The growth has been exponential, right? They say a lot more words. Their vocabulary has grown. They can construct 2 or 3 sentence paragraphs in one thought when they share in dialogue, right? They understand the concept of daytime and nighttime. They understand complex shapes. They can understand commands in many, 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 many multiple instructions, 3 to 4 instructions at the same time. They can count backwards. And they can read, they should be able to read age-appropriate books, if not books above their grade level, right? They should know the date and the day that it is, and they can name the months and days of the week in order. And they like to collect things. During this age, you'll notice a lot of children like to, one of my daughters like to bring different shapes leaves home. Leaves from trees. My present 8-year-old loves to bring rocks home. She has a rock collection. So she sees a rock that she likes, she brings them home. They like to collect objects, right? And that's okay. Allow them to do that, all healthy. You can make an activity out of it, right? We used to make fans from the leaves, fans. And with our rocks, we paint them, different characters, different motifs, okay? How much should they be sleeping? Right. So your 6 to 7 year old should still be sleeping around 10 to 12 hours. Your 8 to 9 year old should be sleeping about 9 to 12 hours, right? Again, sleep deprived kids, they become often hyper irritable. It's hard for them to focus at school. We need to make sure they're getting the right amount of sleep for them to have a healthy life in school the next morning. And a lot of these kids, they go to school super early. I know for my daughter's elementary schools, we start at 7:30 in the morning. That's early. So we want to make sure that they've had enough sleep. Of course, consistent bedtime is important here. It becomes even more important now, you guys, especially on school nights. And I cannot reiterate enough that we need to be turning off all of that technology at least an hour, if not more, before bedtime. And do kind of nighttime activities. How do these guys interact with others, right? This is the time where you help your child create their own personal boundaries and rules about what's okay for them and what's not okay for them. Okay, so we need to take our cues from our child. Now you're going to say to me, Mona, come on, what if my child is an introvert and doesn't want to socialize? Well, that's something different. I totally understand that. You do want to socialize your children, but you don't necessarily want your child to be, sometimes in a social nicety, we say, oh, come on, say salam to the auntie, go give auntie a hug. And the child is very uncomfortable. You do not want to push your child into a situation like that. It's okay if he doesn't or she doesn't want to give auntie a hug. That's a personal boundary that the child has drawn to themselves. Please allow them to have that kind of decision making for themselves. Okay. These children, they cooperate and they share, sometimes unwillingly, and they have feelings of envy when they share, but it's okay. That's a normal feeling to have. Okay. They get jealous of others, like I mentioned, of their siblings and others, right? If a child has a doll that your child doesn't have, they do become jealous. If a child is wearing an outfit that your child doesn't have, they become jealous. If your child, if the other child has chicken nuggets for lunch and your child has dal chawal, they become jealous. Okay, so these are all different areas where it's okay, it's normal. And let's talk to our child about being jealous and what that means and what it means to them, right? Modeling as a parent becomes really imperative at this age, you guys, because these children, 7 to 9 year olds, and even sometimes earlier, 6 to 9 year olds, they copy everything we do. They are watching us like hawks. They copy every single thing that we do, the way we talk, the way we hold ourselves, the way we process our own anxiety. And that is really important. I'll tell you why a little bit later, but we have to be able to model the behavior that our children should be learning, rather than, you know, what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do. Well, in this case, you have to do the right thing in order for them to have the healthy habits, right? During this age, the child also starts to like to play by themselves. That's totally okay. They also like to start playing with friends of their own gender. So you'll start to see a segregation of girls playing just with girls and boys playing just with boys, totally normal. And they have the occasional temper tantrum. It's okay. All right. All you have to remember is to process it with them afterwards and help them deal with it in the moment by breathing, drinking water, taking a break. Okay. These children also like to be modest with their bodies. I think I mentioned that before. They do enjoy group activities. So things like having them in group sports is really good at this age, or a group activity at like gymnastics or whatever, right? They also start to become curious about relationships in regard to what they're seeing being modeled in the home. I have a mommy and a daddy, right? Mommy loves daddy, daddy loves mommy. They start to become curious. What is this really about? What is this relationship, right? Between mommy and daddy, okay? Now we move on to our preteen, our 10 to 12 year olds, right? And this is a really interesting age to talk about, because you see that fourth bullet point there, I've kind of highlighted and blown up: puberty, right? This is the age that our child is starting to go through puberty. Usually our girls are going through it starting sometimes the age of 9, right? So what can our 10 to 12 year old child do? They can write stories, they can write letters, they read well, and this new emergence of technology comes up for them where they like to talk on the phone and they like to text on the phone, okay? Please know that that's an appropriate behavior at this age. And if you are going to allow your child to do this, right, that you monitor them and make sure that they're doing it in a healthy way. For me, my children did not get their own phones until they were 12. My one daughter is 17, the other one is almost 15, and they didn't get their phones until they were 12, until they entered middle school. That was just my rule. I know parents nowadays that give their children phones as early as 8. Sometimes it's out of necessity so they can get a hold of their child. I'm not saying one is right and the other one is wrong. I just shared what I did, just because it's a responsibility that you're giving to the child. There's often an onslaught of needing to either install applications, and when they do, the app asking questions, and sometimes the child doesn't understand. So that's why I say you got to monitor it super closely if you do decide to give your child a phone at around this age. Okay. They have complex vocabulary, right? Like I said, they can write stories, they can write songs, they can write letters, they read really, really well. The words in the dictionary that they hold are exponentially greater than when they were 5 years old. Okay, what do they understand? They value friendship. They may have a best friend or two. This is the age when, because there's puberty, they start to take romantic interests, right? I say it because it's true, right? We don't want to ignore what's going on when our children are going through puberty. They do. They start to find attraction in interests they find romantic, right? They respect their elders, right? And they enjoy talking to others, okay? Now, puberty, we can talk about puberty if you guys want to. I'm not going to go into detail of here, but basically for both boys and girls, dramatic change, right? Physically, emotionally, cognitively, all these changes are happening at the same time for both your boys and girls. The most awkward changes, right? With your girls, it's important to talk to them about what the changes in their body that they're going through, so they are not scared, they are not ashamed. Going through puberty is not something to be embarrassed or ashamed about. Every single woman, for the most part, on the face of the planet goes through this transition. And same thing with our boys, right? It's very important to have a conversation about them so they are not ashamed or embarrassed about the changes that are going on in their body, because everybody goes through them, okay? Social interaction increases, you guys. I put sleep in there again. 10 to 12 hours sleep is super important. We have to be able to, this is the time where we set appropriate limits, right? This is the time where our child comes to us and says, Mama, I'm going to go ride around on my bike in the neighborhood with my friends, right? They need to have guidelines and expectations on what is okay, how far can they go, whether or not they should have a helmet on. They should. What time they need to be home. If they're not going to be home at that time, how to be able to check in with you, and then have appropriate consequences prior to the transgression, right? A lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too sometimes, my child will have a transgression and break expectations, and I jump to the worst. You lost technology for a week. They were only late by like 3 minutes. The punishment does not fit the crime. So if there's a set rule of limits and a set expectation, and then we have appropriate consequences attached to that, then we can enact those consequences. And we have every right to as their parents, because all we're trying to do is keep them safe, right? I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not the last time you'll hear me saying the following. Model appropriate behavior. If you want your child to have healthy habits, model healthy habits, right? I will say it again at least 3 more times during today's talk, okay? I'm sorry. Offer compliments to your child when they're being cooperative and when they have personal achievements. And I'm not just talking about academic achievements. The other day, my oldest daughter drives. The other day, she reported what she thought was a brush fire to 311. And she came home very proud of herself that she had done her civil duty. And she had reported this to the proper authorities so that nobody got hurt and the fire didn't get out of control, etc. Right? So I complimented her and I applauded her for making the right decisions, because that was a good choice to make. Rather than ignoring it and driving past it, she called where she knew where to call and the right people to call to get the help that was needed, not only just for herself, but as a civil person living in the city of Austin. Okay. Help your child choose activities that are appropriate for your child's abilities. We don't want to set our kids up for failure. So that's why I put that in there. Okay. Encourage your child to talk to you and be open about their feelings. This becomes more and more important. The message that you're trying to constantly send your kids, you guys, is that you can talk to me about anything. You can talk to me about anything. You can talk to me about anything, right? Continue to read to your child or read with your child. Get involved in their hobbies. So don't say, yeah, you should play a sport and go drop them off. Become involved in their sport. The more they see that you're involved and you're taking interest, the more they become encouraged to take interest as well. You want to encourage self-discipline, and self-discipline as in when there's rules and guidelines and expectations, they should be able to follow them. As they get older, we can talk about on the next slide, it changes just a little bit because then you can negotiate with them, because as you're trying to engage, instill self-discipline with them, they have to have decision-making power over what that looks like for them, or the semblance of, okay? Teach your child respect, right? I have a daughter who's super sarcastic and funny and has a great sense of humor, just like me, and sometimes crosses the line between joking and respect, right? And so we have a conversation about that. We discuss it and we say, when is it that you do cross the line? And when is it okay not to cross the line, right? Here's the time you also teach your child to be empathetic towards others, to consider their feelings as well as theirs in interactions, okay? All right, let's move on to the next slide. I have lots of information for you guys, right? Let me just open up my next set of notes here. Here we go. All right. Teenagers, 13 years to 18 years. And I know I lumped them together, and there's a huge difference between a 13-year-old child and an 18-year-old child. I get that, but I kind of lumped them together for the sake of time. So big changes happen here. Kids are asserting their independence. They want to set their own boundaries. They want to have decision-making power over rules that they follow. They want to have decision-making power on the classes that they take. Ignore the phone, you guys. They want decision-making power on the friendships that they have. Lots of asserting independence. You want to encourage them asserting independence, as long as it's within the parameters that you have set for them, okay? They cannot walk outside of those boundaries. My oldest daughter is going out with her friends this morning. She knows what clothes I find appropriate when she walks out of the house, right? She knows what time I expect her home. She knows that when mama calls me on my phone, I better answer, right? So she has her independence, but there's also guidelines, rules, and restrictions that she has to adhere by in order to have that independence, okay? Friends become very important. You see your child during this age kind of pulling away from you and being more involved with their friends. This is totally okay. It becomes super, super important for us as their parents to know who their friends are and know who their friends' parents are, right? And to make sure that there's some kind of alignment in belief systems so that our child is not being influenced in an untoward way, right? We want to make sure our child is safe. I wrote influence over here. The reason when I say influence, what I mean is your child is being bombarded externally by all sorts of influences coming at them, whether it be peers at school, whether it be social media, television, books, magazines, other family members, et cetera, et cetera. There's a constant filter that this age group is having to process because all of the things that are coming at them. Please remind them that you are here and that you will be here to talk with them in regard to any topic that they choose to talk to you about, so that they know that if they need to talk about something difficult, that you are in their corner. I cannot reiterate that enough, okay? I wrote boundaries and moral compass. Boundaries become super, super important here, you guys, because there is hormonally an elation happening of activities, romantic, dare I say, sexual hormones that are going on in our body. It happens to all of us. Boundaries become important because we want to remind our kids what we are okay and not okay with. And helping them develop that moral compass that you are not the one saying this is right, this is wrong. They develop their own moral compass of knowing what is right and what is wrong. Right. I tell my children that when I was young, I grew up in a household with 5 brothers. I have a amazing father, but he was my father. I was the only girl. And I tell them, you know, when I was a teenager, when I wanted to do something that I knew wasn't quite right, I would hear my father's voice in my head. Don't do this. This is not okay. And by the time I reached my early 20s, that voice sounded more and more like me. That's a normal progression. It's okay if you are the voice inside your child's head. Okay. Confidence and self-esteem. I want to say, please make a note here because there's a lot of influences, right? The 3rd bullet point that can cause harm to your child's confidence and self-esteem during this age, that can have a very impactful, lasting kind of effect on your child's psyche. So we want to be mindful of that, that if we see their confidence slipping and their self-esteem slipping, we're right in there and going, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about this. Let's get you the help that you need. What is it that you need help with? I'm here to help you. So they know that they can build that self-esteem and that confidence back up. Now we're going to move on to kind of a different conversation, right? You guys know, kind of have an idea about what is going on with your child between the ages of 5 and 18. Okay. Now we're going to talk about what causes them stress. So my oldest daughter's friends were over last night as I was putting this presentation together for you guys. And I had some things on here already, but I asked them, I said, grow this list for me. Tell me what stresses you guys out, right? And these are some of the things that they listed. They listed school, just going to school is sometimes stressful. Homework is stressful. Sometimes there's too much. There's not enough time. It's too hard. And the right resources aren't available. That stresses them out. Social challenges, friends and bullies, both are social challenges that stresses them out. Transitions. Right now I have a daughter who's going from middle school to high school. That's a transition. You guys, some of you have children going from 2nd grade to 3rd grade. That's a transition. Some from 5th grade to 6th grade. That's a transition. Some from high school to college. That's a transition. So anytime there's transition, there's stress because you don't know what to expect. Competition. There's lots of competition out there, guys. Our kids are smart. Our kids are resourceful. Our kids know the answers, and that creates a lot of competition. And they're competing too when we want our kids to go to college with all these other kids in the world who are also wanting to go to college, right? Then there's family pressure. We put a lot of pressure on our kids sometimes without even knowing it, right? Oh, so-and-so kids went to Yale. And, you know, you're not even saying, why can't you go to Yale? You're just saying, so-and-so kids went to Yale and look at how proud they are and blah, 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 blah. Your child is taking all of this information in, right? Because there's a fear of failure that causes them stress. There's a fear of judgment. Our kids are a little bit different, right? We identify as Muslims. Sometimes we're a different color. We're people of color. That comes with it a lot of stuff about being judged, right? A lot of our girls wear hijabs, right? Our boys don't date. And so there's a lot of judgment that comes with that. They said that time constraints stress them out. There's not enough time. They want to do all these extracurricular activities. They want to get a job and they want to do gymnastics and they want to be in the choir and they want to, there's too much and not enough time because they have to go to school and do the homework and sleep and all of this other stuff at the same time, right? Identity sometimes causes them stress, who they are. We have to build our children's confidence to be confident in who they are. Differences in cultures, religions, belief systems sometimes cause them stress, and self-confidence, right? Causes them, or not, the lack of self-confidence causes stress, okay? How do we recognize when our children are stressed out? Okay, these are some common kind of indicators behaviorally that we can look out for. They're more attached to you than they normally are. So anytime I talk about any of these things, it's more than normal, right? Away from the normal, right? They're more restless and fidgety than they normally are. They complain of stomach aches or headaches or backaches more than normal, right? They display changes in eating and sleeping habits more than normal. They express negative thoughts or worries, get upset or angry more quickly, have bouts of unexplained crying or temper tantrums more than normal, or struggle to focus more than normal. So these are some indicators, or the combination of them are some indicators that your child is feeling stressed and anxious, right? And it is an indication to you, parents, to then get involved and ask them, right? They may not tell you. Ask them and sit down with them and get them the help and give them the resources that they need, right? Sometimes our kids can't think to the next step. I have this project due and I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's causing them stress, right? And that's why they're complaining of a stomach ache. Okay, well, sit down with them and brainstorm. Well, what is your project about? Let's think about some topics together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So sometimes it's as simple as that. So we won't know until we talk to our children. Verbally, what does some of this sound like, right? Our kids use a lot of different language nowadays, and every generation has their own set of words that they use. So I found this really cool, this Free Spirit Publishing, and they do a lot of SEL, social emotional learning material. And I found this little graphic on there, which encapsulates what I was trying to say very well, right? Here are words that describe stress feelings, right? I'm feeling frustrated, nervous, burned out, excited, panicky, jumping, wired. When you hear your kids using any of these words, they're telling you, Mom, Dad, I'm stressed out. Okay. I know I'm looking at the time. I'm very mindful of the time, you guys. I'm almost done, I swear. Okay. So what should we do? Right? When we see our children being stressed out, what should we do? Number one, talk. Communication is the biggest resolution to most of this. Talk to your kids, right? Listen to them. Don't problem solve for them. Listen to them. Listen to what they're really trying to say. Validate them. Oh, you felt angry. I'm sorry you felt angry. I would have been angry too if I were in that situation, right? Listen to them. Read their nonverbals. This is especially for our older children, the 13 to 18 age group. Sometimes there's something upsetting them and you engage them in conversation and you watch them become more and more frustrated in trying to explain what it is that's going on with them. That's your nonverbal that you need to give them some space for a little while and then come back later. So read their nonverbals. Give them your undivided attention. Don't be having, please, I encourage you not to, it sounded like a command before, so I changed my language. I encourage you to not be cooking as you're talking to your child about stress, right? Because you're not modeling, I got to get dinner on the table in 5 minutes, and you're talking to me about stress, and right now I'm stressed out. Give them your undivided attention. Stay positive. Focus on the positive. Be real. And by that, I mean, admit your own feelings, right? Sometimes my kids come to me and I am overwhelmed and I am stressed. And I say, I really want to talk to you, but I have no space in my head right now. I need 15 minutes. Be real, right? And be honest with your children. They get it. They understand a lot more than we think. I put in here, stop mom-splaining. Sometimes we over-explain as parents. This goes for dads too. I know the word is mom-splaining, but dads do this too. We over-explain to our kids what's going to happen. So now we have created this environment where they need to know exactly what's going to happen to every single detail every single time. And when they don't know, it causes them anxiety. You don't need to give them every single detail, right? For example, if we might go out to dinner tonight as a family, right? So I tell my kids, we're going to go out tonight, be ready by 6:30 to leave the house. And they'll ask me questions like, well, where are we going? Who all's going to be there? What time will we be back? What are we going to do there? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going out to dinner. Just be ready by 6:30. I don't need to tell them. So at 6:32 p.m., we are going to all sit in our car and buckle our seatbelts. And then daddy will turn the key in the ignition as he turns the car engine on, and we will pull out of the driveway at exactly 6:33. We don't need to do this for them. I put model in here again. Model healthy behavior, model good behavior, model engaging with your feelings and talking about your feelings. The more you model healthy behavior, the more they'll learn healthy behavior, you guys. I cannot reiterate this enough. It's never too late to model good behavior. The second bullet here, talk to your partner, okay? For a lot of our families, both parents work, right? In my household, I work and my husband works, right? So there's a lot of logistical stuff that we need to figure out on a daily basis. This child needs to be picked up at this time. This child gets home at this time. This child needs to be there, but I have a meeting at this time. Sitting down the night before and planning it out really helps belay a lot of stress and anxiety for you and for the child, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to problem solve before you're in the panic mode. So you're pre-planning, right? Problem solve before you're actually in panic mode in the moment. That it's 3 o'clock and you were supposed to be there at 2:55 and you're 15 minutes away, and now what do? Right? Share information. I put share information because as our kids get older, we need their input, right? I have a daughter who's in band, right? And they have practice every morning and sometimes in the evenings. Now, unless she communicates that with me, I can never keep a track of this calendar. Unless she communicates, Mama, I need to be there at 6:30 in the morning, I'm not going to know that she needs to be there at 6:30 in the morning. And I'm assuming she's taking the bus to school tomorrow morning, right? So we need to have as many members of the family involved in the conversation as possible. Talking to their teacher or teachers is very important. The more involved you are, the more your child knows that they're not alone and they can use you as a resource, right? And every once in a while, I actually don't intervene a lot with my kids' academic life, but every once in a while, I'll email their teachers and be like, hey, this is me, I'm so-and-so's parent, and I'm here to help, right? Let me know. Or I'll ask a question, how is she doing? Or what have you noticed? Whatever. It can be something very mundane and innocuous, but drop them a line so the children know that you are involved. Talking to friends, talk to your own friends. A community of other parents is the best community to have, because sometimes we get stuck and we have barriers in our own mind, and talking to other parents can kind of alleviate those barriers. And talk to your kids' friends and your kids' friends' parents, because you will know what your child is exactly involved in and what's been going on at your exact school, et cetera, right? So talking. Communication is key. If you guys take anything away today, 2 things: model, communicate. Model, communicate. Okay, those are the 2 things. What else can we do? Set up routines, you guys. I don't care how old you are, whether you're 6 months old or 18-year-old, you need a routine. It is vital. Get everyone involved in coming up with a routine that's age appropriate for each of them. I have 3 age groups in my household. Each one of them has a different routine. We all do eat at the same time, but sleep times are different, wake up times are different, homework times are different, snack times are different, right? Setting up a routine age appropriate for each one of your children is super, super important. Try to keep meals and sleep times consistent. Our body has an expectation that when it wakes up at 6:30 in the morning, that hopefully it's going to eat within the next 15-20 minutes, right? And when you come home at night and you want dinner, that you're usually eating whatever family dinner time looks like for you. In my house, it's 7 o'clock. For some people, it's 6 o'clock. My brother's home, it's 5:30. They eat super early, right? Try to teach your kids how to help out around the house. No child is too young, unless they don't have the motor skills, right, to help out in the house. Don't do it for them. Hey, baby, pick up your clothes up off the floor in your room. I'll do it, mama. And at the end of the night, it's time to go to bed, and they haven't picked up their clothes. And what do? You go and you pick up all the dirty clothes off the floor in their room and you put them in the hamper. Please don't do this. Remind them as many times as necessary for them to do it. And if they still haven't done it by bedtime, remember, you're building good behaviors, healthy behaviors. Right before bedtime, say, come on, before I tuck you in, I'll help you, right? You pick up that one and I'll pick up this one. So you're not doing it for them. They're still doing it. You're just encouraging the behavior, okay? Organizing is very, very important, you guys. Organizing their supplies, or having them organize their supplies, or organizing their closets, or having them organize their closets, so that in the morning they're not going, hey, can I borrow? Or hey, I can't find my, because in the morning we're all busy. Plan out the week. If you have time, an hour or so on the weekends, sit down as a family and plan your week out. What does your week look like this week? What are you doing on Tuesday? And what's happening here? And don't we have something going on Thursday, et cetera, et cetera. Communication is key. Okay. I wanted to throw this slide in there about setting rules. I talked about that a lot. They have to be age appropriate, you guys, and easy for your children to understand. And consequences should be equivalent to the transgression. And I gave this little example. Again, I found this resource on Free Spirit Publishing. They do a lot of social emotional publications for children, right? And it's actually a positive. There's no consequence written on here. It's choices, right? It's choices. So this is a family's media plan, that when they're having dinner together, they're not on their technology. Okay. And there's positives in there, et cetera, et cetera. So these are kind of the things that you can come up with, sit down and come up with. Lots of resources on the internet and online. Okay. Oh, before I go to questions, I have one more slide to share with you. As I was putting my presentation together these last couple of days for you guys, my little 8-year-old had some input, and I want to share that slide with you. And she titled this slide, Child's Choice, Advice from an 8-year-old. Okay. So she wanted to talk about bullies. And she said, sometimes bullies can make a huge impact on your child because it can make you feel like you're a smaller person or not allowed to be your true self around other people, right? So she thought that that would be really good advice for all of you. She wanted to talk about friends. Making forever friends can be really hard on a kid because they may have a different class from you, and seeing your friends outside of school is really important, right? So she recently got split up from one of her really good friends. They're in 2 different classrooms. So this is telling me, mama, this is stressing me out that my best friend is no longer in the same classroom as me. I need to hang out with her a little bit more. And she wanted to share this new program that her school is doing called, part of the SEL program, that they have kindergarten buddies that they're assigning to older children in the school. She's in the 3rd grade, so that the younger kids can learn how to model good behavior. Okay, now I'm all done. Let's see if we have any questions, Sister Nudat, if you
Yes, I think you can. I don't know if you can. Thank you so much. That session was so informative, packed with a lot of information. I can say, as a mother myself of 2, I learned quite a bit. And I loved how you said, if you don't take away a lot, take very important things, model good behavior. And, that is so important. We do have a few questions. Can you see them? Should I read them to you?
I can see them. Let me see.
Okay.
Modeling how to be fair. My question would be, when they mention interest in opposite gender at an early age, although still innocent, how can we respond so they can still feel safe and not keep it secret while continue to protect them? This is actually a really good question, right? And every family is different, right? Of course, we have our religious beliefs, and there's gradients in that too. And then we have our cultural beliefs, depending on what culture we're from, and there's gradients in that too. And then we have our familial beliefs, and there's gradients in that too, right? So there's all these different belief systems that we are trying to process and assemble a question, an answer for a question our child just asked us. I would encourage you to give them real life examples, right? And say, sure, I understand you like this boy, right? And then give them the positives, right? Having a partner, a life partner when you're older that protects you, that keeps you safe, that loves you, that listens to you is very, very important. And then give an example. Like, I always use me and my husband, even though we're not perfect, right? I tell my kids, well, look at daddy and me, right? When we have a problem, we resolve it together. So they're not looking at relationships and being attracted to the opposite gender as a means of intimacy and sex. It's actually, you're looking at it from a very halal, very kind of friendly point of view. So always give them positives and allow them to, the more you share, and then remind them of parameters, right? Religiously X, culturally X, right? Do not name consequences like you will go to hell. That instills fear, right? We do not want our child to show good behavior because they are in fear of something. You want them to show good behavior because they understand morally where that lies. Hopefully that answered the question. In case of a bully, how do we help our kid address it and develop a healthy friendship when groups of friends are already formed? Oh, this is a great question, right? Bullying is a big topic. You can help your child, give them suggestions and problem solve with them that stay away from the bully, don't engage with the bully, tell the teacher, et cetera, right? Sometimes what happens is, maybe a lot of schools now have counselors within the schools, and you can get help from the counselors where they do a mediation session between the bully and the child that's being bullied. And usually a couple of conversations in, what happens is there's understanding built, so the bully no longer bullies your child. When a friend group is already formed, encourage your child to not give up. I really feel like our age group, and I'm thinking that maybe there is, the age group we're talking about is a younger child based on these questions, that's what I'm guessing, that when it comes to becoming a part of a friend group, it is hard to penetrate a group that's already formed. Allow your child to know to not give up and to keep trying, even if it's one child at a time, right? So becoming friends with one child in that group is having one child be friends with your child as opposed to the entire group. So you start with one. I don't know if that made any sense, right? But we want to start with one friend at a time. Okay. Yeah. Somebody wrote here, whether you're a 6-month-old or 18-year-old, you need routine, or a 40-something-year-old. You guys, our brain, here's why I emphasize routines so much, right? Here's the reason. Our brain likes predictability. Our brain likes to know what to expect, right? What's coming next during the day. So when there is a routine, when our brain knows what's going to happen, there's less anxiety, there's less stress on our brain. That's why I emphasize routine so much. And then somebody said, thank you. Thank your daughter for us. Oh, thank you so much. She's a gem. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great.
Thank you so much. Yes, that is very true. We all love routines, and it's hard, I would want to say, as you mentioned so many times, especially now when parents are working, when there is so much around them already. It is so important to come to terms with our own emotional state before we go ahead and address our kids. And that is something Very, very important. And as you said, another thing I did want to ask you was, and this is something I have noticed and I myself struggle with sometimes, is transitions.
Mhm.
Transitioning one activity to another. I have seen child have a lot of resistance towards that. How do you suggest we address that
Yeah,
with our kids?
that's a great question. If tell me if I'm understanding you correctly. I think you're asking that during a day we're going from a school day to, say, like an after school activity, and there's
Correct.
resistance. Okay.
And we've planned this, we've
Mhm,
written this, we've kind of discussed this way ahead of time. We've said,
mhm,
okay, these are the days we have these classes. But when it comes to it, it's like, I don't want to go. It's just, I don't want to do this.
mhm,
I
mhm,
don't, okay, you don't feel like doing it today. What's happening? Are you tired? Let's talk about it now.
mhm,
It's like, I just don't want to do it. It's not needed. Yeah, it's something I don't want to do right now. Just
mhm.
because out of fear, I don't know. But then when the child goes there, the child is enjoying it
Yeah,
and
and
is
then they have
absolutely
fun.
fine. They're
Mhm,
fine. The same
mhm,
thing with homework. It's like, I don't want to do it. I don't. There is like 10-30 minutes of that resistance. Whereas when you started it, you were fine and you got it done. It was not like it was hard. It didn't seem like a challenge once it got started. But
mhm,
just as sometimes we put it, like it's like the engine doesn't even want to start. Once it
mhm,
starts, it goes fine. So how do
mhm,
you kind of balance and transition, make that easy?
mhm. That's a really good question, right? A couple of things can be happening, and this is just my point of view. So it doesn't mean I'm absolutely right. We're dialoguing here, right? So a couple of things could be happening. One thing that could be happening is that there's not enough downtime between the big activity, which is school, 8-9 hours of the day, and the next activity. There's not enough space to where the child can recharge. We have to understand that our children, and we were children once too, so I can totally put myself in their shoes. They deal with a lot. They're cognitively on for 8 to 9 hours straight, going from subject to subject to subject for subject. That's a lot of input going into our
Hmm.
brains, okay? There's also emotional input coming in at the same time, right? They're worrying about, does my friend like my outfit? Am I going to say the wrong answer? Lots of emotional processing they're doing. They're running a marathon inside of their heads, you guys, for 8 to 9 hours a day, right?
Hmm.
So we have to allow them that time they need, especially for, I feel like, the older kids, the 9 to 18 age group, right? To recharge, regroup, decompress before they move on to the next thing, right? That's something that can be going on. Another thing that might be happening is they may not feel like they have any agency in the decision making of what is happening to them. Sometimes kids will say, I don't want to do gymnastics. This is something you wanted me to do, right? Well, their interest wasn't there. Why are we not giving them the agency or the decision making power to engage in the things that they want to engage with rather than the things that we want to engage them in? And some parents are going to say, they're going to get mad at me, and rightfully so. They're going to say, well, Mona, they have to do Quran class and they have to do Arabic class. Absolutely, 100%. I understand that. But at the same time, I want to remind you guys, do you want to do it in a positive way where the child wants to come to learn Quran and to learn Arabic? Or do you want to do it in a way where you're forcing them to sit there and focus and only 20% of the information is getting through? How do you get around this, right? Ask them, be curious and say, hey, we have about an hour between right now and when we need to go do X. What would you like to do with this time? And they might say to you, Mama, I really want to go take a shower. Go take a shower then. Mama, I really want to take a nap. Go take a nap then. Mama, I really want to eat carbs. This is something my daughter says when she's stressed out, my oldest one, because she's really mindful of what she eats, because I've modeled good behavior. I'm so proud of myself, right? And she'll say, I need to eat carbs. That's her way of recharging. So allow them that recharging time. So now you're using the time to recharge rather than time in conflict. Am I making sense? Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is very helpful. And you know, it makes sense to ask them. You gave them a choice. Okay, you want to do it at 6 o'clock. Okay, you don't want to go immediately after school. Got it. Let's do that. They come home, they're like, let me watch for a little bit. Okay, you can take, 30 minutes and then
Mhm.
come back and let's go. 30 minutes are done. 5 more minutes. Okay, no, we said 30 minutes. So we're
Yep.
going to let's stick to our time that we promised. No, I still need that 5 minutes. No, it's
Right.
come on,
So
let's do
so
it.
so when they give you a timeline, ask them, do you think that's a realistic timeline? Do you really need 30 minutes or do you actually need 40 minutes? Actually, Mama, it's more like 45 minutes. At 45 minutes, we're walking out the door. Got it? Got it. So we have to be able to give them the choice. And remember, I said guidelines and expectations. They should know that they cannot break those guidelines and expectations. And there's consequences, right? So then tomorrow, I'm sorry, when you come home and you want to watch TV for 45 minutes, it's only actually going to be 10 minutes because today you did not I honored you by giving you the 45 minutes you needed,
Mhm.
but you did not honor me because you wanted more time than 45 minutes that we had agreed upon. So then we have to have that consequence. And then we have to instill that consequence. That's the part where a lot of parents struggle with, where when they say a consequence, actually enacting the consequence for our older
Yeah.
children, right? And so the kids know, well, Mama's not going to do anything, even if she says she's going to only give me 15 minutes of technology tomorrow. She's going to forget. She's going to get busy. She's going to have to cook dinner, or Daddy's going to come home and they're going to be talking and Mama's going to forget all about me. So they take advantage when they
Mhm.
know that you're not going to follow through on the consequence in a healthy way. Do not get heightened when you're trying to instill this consequence,
Oh,
right?
that is so hard.
It is very hard. It is very hard. What's the one thing that older kids especially love is their technology, their phones, right? I do encourage you, there's lots of free different apps out there that can give you parental controls over all the devices under your roof. And this is something that we have done. My husband, with the click of a button on his phone, can turn off every single phone in the household, right? And you cannot go online, you cannot call, you cannot text, you cannot open any apps, right? So you're not physically trying to fight them for their technology. You're just turning it off. You just took access away, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to look into that as well, if that is something that you like to use as a consequence. In this house, we absolutely do. It's the only thing that works. It's the only thing that
Well,
works.
and that's important too, to look at what works for you, I
Mhm,
guess, because every child is different, every
mhm.
individual, every household is different, everybody's our goals are different. We got to tailor our plans according to that, and also very importantly, I want to pass this message on to whoever is going to listen later, whoever's listening right now, that if you feel like you need help with understanding yourself or trying to get this communication better, um, it is important to just go ahead and seek help. We have Sister Mona, we have a lot of other resources and providers out there. I know one of the challenges, Sister Mona, is like getting appointments sometimes can be hard for some people, but I know you are open to the community and
Absolutely. I'm even open to an email. If all you have is a question and you are stuck, shoot me an email. I'm happy to help, right? It may not even need an appointment or we need to sit down and really dig in. Some issues do, but some issues are really easily resolved just through one or two conversations over the phone or on email. And so
that's amazing.
not be afraid to reach out and just ask the question.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no
And there
stupid
is
questions.
there are no right or wrong questions, and
Yep.
there is no need for you to worry that, oh, my child is going to be labeled in a certain way or
Nope.
something like that. We're not going to be judging you. All
Nope.
we are asked, all that all the providers here would do is know where you come from, what is the problem, try to problem solve with you and see how we can help in any way. And that is what, we're here for. So absolutely, anytime, be happy to reach out. And the email is in the link that I think was for the registration. So you can email Sister Mona and we can answer questions. She can answer questions for you. And I am very happy to be a part of this session today. Thank you so much. Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in this and a lot of people
Ameen.
benefit from this. And I
Ameen.
hope that, we have more healthier communications within our families and we are able to provide that good experience to our families. And
Ameen.
as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he was the best to his own family. So